Hello, everyone. Welcome to a really great presentation from Paula Marucci, EMDR Chicago, all about WeMind, a more effective and transformational EMDR session. I'm Andy Gale, the consultant and tech wizard, for lack of a better title that we haven't come up with. Excited to introduce Paula Marucci, our founder and fearless leader, EMDR training extraordinaire, out of Chicago, as well as Sander, who is the founder and CEO of Moovd and the creator of WeMind. So it's going to be a really great presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to Paula. If you have any questions in the chat, you can send them over. Sander will be answering anything on the technical side, and I'll be saving questions for Paula on the EMDR side as well. So we're excited to see if you can please mute everybody as you come in, and we'll get started. Turning it over to you, Paula.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Thank you for spending an hour with us. As you know, I don't like to waste any time, and I talk quickly, so we're going to get a lot covered in this hour. First of all, I just want to do a shout out to my coach, Raina. She had surgery, and she's back in the ICU due to some complications, and she wants a recording of this, so we're recording it just for her. Raina, we love you, and we hope that you are getting better, and you're going to love this. So, okay, let's move on. I'm going to share my screen. And
your PowerPoint's already up, Paula. You're all set.
Oh, it is. Oh my gosh, look how efficient I am. I don't even know it. Okay, great. So you guys, a lot of you know me because I'm a basic trainer, do a lot of basic training for EMDR consulting, working for Roy Kiesling. He's changed my life, very knowledgeable when it comes to EMDR. He worked with Francine from 1995 to 2013, and then went out on his own. So I have been a huge part of his amazing growth that he's seeing in his company, because I so believe in the work that he does. And, being an EMDRIA approved EMDR trainer as well, love the fact that we have a governing body that does such a great job. So I just want to put that out there. Introductions to Sander, and I've always been a huge fan of Ad de Jongh when he came into the conference in 2020, maybe more so for his personality, because he had us all laughing and we were so entertained, and we're like, wow, like therapy can be fun. He was up there dancing on the stage, and it was just a hoot. So I've been following him, and so his connection with this is that he really introduced me to working memory theory and what we can do with it. I use it a lot. And so then when I saw this particular platform, I was like, wow. So I've been given the opportunity to use it and it's only been 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe. So I'm going to be presenting this from a place of only recently starting to use this, but I did focus on my addiction clients because I am an addictions therapist, and I'm really working to try to help the addiction community with EMDR, also eating disorders. But what I'm finding is that this is wonderful for everybody. All right, so we're going to move it, and here we go. So first, of course, we want to honor our adaptive information processing model. Without the AIP, there would be no EMDR. And so, this comes directly from EMDRIA's website. We've got the model that provides the framework through which our 8 phases and our 3 prongs come from. And so EMDRIA wants us to always be taking away the fact that EMDR is 8 phases, and that we are always working with the past, the present, and the future. And so one of the primary principles of the AIP model is this dynamic drive toward mental health. So we have this natural healing process of the brain. I'm always sharing with my new trainees that when I, the therapist, am running the session, I am the healer. But when we're using EMDR, the brain is the healer. And how powerful is that? That we therapists now have this opportunity to be able to use the brain as well as our own skills. And we're looking to integrate EMDR into our work. We're not just looking to replace our work, because we're already good at what we do. The world is getting more complicated. So it's really nice to know that we can, add to our skill set to meet the world where it's at. And that negative, new positive and negative experiences link up with existing networks. So I always like to use the visual where we're binding or connecting our positive and negative cognitions. We're always looking to link that unconscious, wounded, we're going to put parts work in here and polyvagal in here. At least we're going to throw the language in there, where we've got the unconscious and we need to make that connection with the conscious, with the language. And that's where the healing is. And not only is the healing done when that connection is made, but also with us. Our clients are not alone in their trauma. We have that attachment repair that we're working on as well. Because at the end of the day, we know it's all about the relationship. So 3 action mechanisms for EMDR. I train a lot of clinicians, so this is part of our teaching. We have the taxing of the working memory. We have the orienting response, and we have our eye movements that are linked to REM sleep at night. And so today what we're going to focus on is just the taxing of the working memory. And I think that that's what Netherlands and Europe has brought to us, is this just more information, more data, more research around what working memory does. And so it makes my job easier since, I do these basic trainings. Our focus for this next hour will be on the working memory theory. So we're not going to talk about REM. We're not going to talk about orienting, even though we're orienting all the time. And so working memory, this is visual, love visuals. It's how I learn. We're going to look at the fact that the working memory model is broken into 3 components. We've got the visual, spatial, we've got the phonological loop. So in other words, what we see, what we hear, and then the episodic buffer is what puts it all together. But the key thing is that what we put into the working memory, into the central executive that's going to do the work, that's going to conduct all of this, is our sensory memory, which is sound, the visuals, feel, smell, taste. This should sound familiar because this is what we're utilizing for our clients. For example, clients come in with PTSD symptoms, it might be the smell of the cookies that were baked in the house where the abuse happened, or it might be the sound of the machines in the hospital room when dad passed away, or it might be the taste with a sexual abuse situation. But a lot of times we're looking at visuals. And when I'm, in our trainings, we use what we call a snapshot, which is Francine's picture, because we want to make sure that we're titrating what we're looking at so that we're not stirring up too much disturbance. So at the end of the day, we have these fragments of memories that are just floating around, and we're going to pull those fragments of those memories. We're going to send them into the working memory, and then the working memory is going to pull them all together. And they're going to create a memory, they're going to timestamp it, and then they're going to put it in the long-term memory as something that's adaptive. And so that's the exciting piece of the working memory that we're going to talk about. But first, let's talk about, before we get started, let's talk about what's been brought to us since 2020 and beyond from Netherlands. First of all the journal articles that you would need to get started are in the resources at emdrchicago.com. For those of you that use my resources, my resources are there for you. So Andy will be, I think he emailed it out to you, so you have all the articles at the bottom for the working memory theory. We need to point out that the Netherlands has done 50% of our EMDR research to date. That is a lot of research. I know that when I first started in EMDR, I'm on Andrew Leeds' website. I'm looking, searching for new research because people want to know what we know now. They know what we knew then: PTSD, 90% effective, PTSD being a one-time criterion event. But now we've got complex PTSD that's walking into our offices, and that's a different story. The treatment plan is very different between PTSD and complex PTSD. And then to make things even more complicated, we don't even have an official diagnosis in our country. They do around the world, but we don't have it here. So it's important for us to have the research and to literally kind of put this together for ourselves. The Netherlands also has the largest PTSD clinic in the world, which is really exciting. And you can find out a lot more from Dr. Susie Matheson and Dr. Ad de Jongh around what it is that they're doing. They're doing amazing work, just putting out a lot of research. And so there's that. And then the working memory theory has very strong scientific support, as you can imagine. And like I said, there's a ton of journal articles that we've already uploaded for you to look at in your free time. So the neurobiology tells us that the working memory effects can be seen in brain scans where the amygdala is neutralized. So that's huge because Polyvagal's hitting the market now. And we're actually, EMDR Chicago is doing a book study group on Facebook. And you don't have to be on Facebook, but it's motivation, or I'm sorry, not motivational. It's Polyvagal and EMDR. And it's hugely popular. Rebecca Case did an amazing job of teaching us how to integrate the two. And you know, this working memory theory just slips right in very easily, because at the end of the day, if you can neutralize that amygdala, then that's going to open up all kinds of options. The stronger the amygdala is deactivated, the more symptom reduction we see. This opens up the communication between the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. That's what we need for our transformative new encoding. We talk about this in our basic trainings. If we could just get that amygdala to turn off the alarms, then we could open up the road, the highway, the expressway straight to the prefrontal cortex. And we need that hippocampus prefrontal cortex conversation for our memories to be adaptively stored. So if you know the details behind what reconsolidation is, or if you don't, it is what we need for new adaptive memories to be re-encoded. You know, when we think of it from a parts perspective, another really cool thing that's taking off, if you think of it from IFS, you've got that wounded child, that negative cognition of, you know, I am worthless coming from childhood. And then we're going to bring it in and we're going to work with it to the point where we can link, bind, or connect it with our positive cognition. And then that reconsolidation is the time stamping and it being stored in that long-term memory as something that's adaptive. And so that's very exciting. What exactly is taxing the working memory? Well, first we need a motivation and activation. You need your clients to be motivated to do the work, which with, you know, once again, I'm taking on clients right now that are only looking for help with their substance use disorder and eating disorders, because I'm really, really trying to work on focusing on using this model. So first we need them to be motivated, and then we need them to be activated. And so we want to activate, we want to pull from that long-term memory. And one of the things that we're going to see that WeMind provides for us is if your client can't get activated, we can activate you. And also, though, we are always going to incorporate parts work, because we would never want to blow through a blocking part that doesn't want that work to be done yet. Hence, there we are back with motivation. And if we're in a prefrontal, not prefrontal, if we're in oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. But if you're looking at motivational interviewing, if it's pre-contemplation, stage of change, and your client isn't there yet, we can also use EMDR strategies to move the clients from pre-contemplation into contemplation. So the two separate tasks of the working memory, and I'm going to take a breath here in a minute because I know I talk fast, and ask Andy if there's any questions. But the two separate tasks that we're looking at are going to be the visual spatial sketchpad and the phonographic loop. And so I think that's really cool, because here, this is actually a picture of the screen. Sandra, I hope you're appreciating this connection that I'm making. This is a picture of the screen on a client's iPhone. They literally feel like they're playing a video game because we have the visual on the right and we have the audio on the left. And when we can activate both of these pieces of working memory, that's when you're going to get the best results. So if we can get something that's going that's visual, and we can get something that's going that's audio, and then you're going to see what happens after that. But just looking at what working memory does and how we're going to start utilizing it is just being shown in this visual of what the client is looking at. Baddeley, who is the working memory guy, he started in, I think, the 1970s, and then he put out some new information in 2000. He tells us how this gathering of information is then time-stamped and sent to the long-term memory. So we're going to pull data into the visual spatial piece. We're going to pull data into the audio piece, and this includes voices. This includes when you're talking about protector parts and you're talking about manager parts and firefighters, or you're talking about EPs, AMPs, et cetera, when we're looking at dissociation, that's the voices. They are here. So we can do parts work with this modality as well. So working memory theory, just one more time, let's just look at this visual. We're going to pull in the aspects of a memory, and it's going to get worked on here in the visual piece. And it's going to get worked on here with the audio piece. And here's the speech, the words, the numbers. And this is going to be, like I said, it's going to be voices. It can be positive cognitions. It can be negative cognitions. And then at the end of the day, it's all brought together. And the episodic buffer then sends it to, like I said, with a timestamp, into the long-term memory. So if you needed neurobiology, that's what we've got for today. We are going to continue this conversation in 1 month at the exact same time, and we're going to continue with the neurobiology. Andy, anything coming up that I need to address before I continue?
Nothing yet in the chat.
Not that we need you to. There's a lot of information here. You're going to get the PowerPoint. And like I said, we're going to hopefully get you guys to try this. And then we're going to meet in a month and talk about what came up. WeMind is a Dutch startup. Okay. We've got Sander here, who is the owner. Or I should say owner or co-owner. Make sure I get that right. How did WeMind get its name? Well, I asked Sander, I'm like, where did WeMind come from? And I really appreciated his response, because I do a lot of work that's kind of outside of what physically goes on in this world here. I've taken the training where we do afterlife communication. I work with several of my clients that have had significant losses, children due to overdoses, and that we do work that we are literally reaching out and working with energy that might be outside of what we're living with here on the earth. And so what Sander said is that EMDR works with the brain. True, check. That then we've got the body, which is the right brain is connected to the body. So when you engage that right brain, when you cross over that corpus callosum and you engage the body keeps the score, the body holds the burden, the body has all of our memories stored for us. We engage the body, and now we have polyvagal, so we can teach our clients how to monitor and make that connection between mind and brain and body. But the mind piece is everything else. The mind piece is going to be whatever you need it to be, whatever you want it to be. So my client that feels like she's working on targets from past lives, the client that is communicating with their loved one that has passed away, the mind incorporates all of that. It just incorporates your spirituality. It's really that biopsychosocial spiritual that we embrace, especially as social workers. So I really love the definition of WeMind, in that when I first looked at it, I was like, what's that? And now I get it. And it feels good. I like it. Tools for therapists to assist with online therapy that took off after the pandemic. This is an online platform, even though I've got a laptop set up in my office, and my clients love to use it on their phones because they think they're playing a video game, which is fine. If we can have our clients happy while doing trauma work, that's great. It was introduced into the US in the summer of 2023, so it hasn't been around that long. And that's why we're here introducing it to you, because it really is taking off. I know it took off in Europe. And so we want what everybody else has, right? Main focus on the working memory. So any device, looks like I have a typo there, on a working memory. So any device can be used. You can use it on anything. You can use it on a tablet, on a computer. You can use it on your phone. Like I said, my clients actually prefer the phone. And the visual and audio tasks have an algorithm that calculates the working memory load. So when we think about the activation, and we think about what we're bringing into the working memory, the amount of distraction, that taxing of the working memory, is really important, because we need to find that sweet spot. We need to find that space where the client is being taxed just enough to work with that disturbing memory, whatever that disturbing memory is. And a lot of times, I'm in the office, I'm doing, all kinds of things that I learned for EMDR 2.0, and we're counting and we're spelling and we're, dancing or whatever we're doing. And so now I don't have to focus on all of that. I don't have to focus on if I'm doing enough, not enough. You know, the client gets a little frustrated because they're like, oh, I can't focus on all of this. And my favorite question is, you know, when you pull up that visual, how intense is it now? And they're like, well, you've got me so distracted here that I can't find the visual. And I'm like, there it is. Oh, there it is. The whole point is that we were able to bring down that activation. We were able to timestamp it in that working memory with the episodic buffer, and we're able to transfer it into the long-term memory as an adaptive memory. And it is no longer disturbing because the client is trying to pull that memory up from the long-term memory and they can't find it because it's no longer activating. And that's super cool. And once again, I'm just going to throw in polyvagal sympathetic nervous system. If your client can tell you what triggers them into that sympathetic nervous system, we can get in there with WeMind and we can just knock those triggers out. We don't even have to think about going into the parasympathetic shutdown if we can head it off. So I'm just super excited about some of the things that we're going to be able to do with this moving forward. And in our presentation in 1 month, I'm actually going to be talking about parts work and motivational keep saying motivational interviewing. I think that is something telling me I need to figure out how to integrate this with motivational interviewing, but with Polyvagal. So 45% more effective than standard EMDR. Sander, I need to get that article on my website. There's work that they did out there. They took a light bar and they did standard protocol, and then they used WeMind, and the numbers are just off the charts. So I'll get Sander to get me that article that we can add to our resources today, hopefully. And then one thing it's a pain in the butt, I'll be honest with you, but of course we always have to be HIPAA compliant. Did I use the right? So HIPAA compliant in that no data is stored. So every session you need to save it to your clipboard, and then you need to transfer it into your notes, which is kind of cool because you can be, you know, putting notes in, talking about the SUDS and the VOC and talking about what the targets are, and maybe a little bit about how the client's doing. You know, we're going to show you how we can bring in our client's own positive resources. They can bring in their, you know, their favorite resource, like, you know, if they're really big into spirituality and they went to Israel and the Jordan River was their favorite spot, you can bring that picture in from their vacation and load it up and use it with the slow, short sets of bilateral. I'm going to show you that, believe it or not, before we leave today. So, but nothing is stored, which is more inconvenient for us because it just means we have to redo it. But we can copy the information and just directly put it into our notes. So for those of you that are newly trained, because I know a lot of you, well, I've been trained for a long time now, but a lot of you are here because you know me, you got trained by me. I want to make sure that you understand that when we go in to use this, and you get 45 free days because we really want you to give it a try. When you go and use this, of course, we'll start with the standard model. If we can't do the standard model, then what's the point, right? So we're our AIP informed, you know, 8 phases, 3-prong model. I'm going to basically walk you through what that looks like. So let's give it a whirl. And then Andy, anything coming up yet?
Yeah, we do have 2 questions. First, is there any evidence that this platform would be contraindicated for addressing screen addiction if it feels like a video game?
Okay. All right. I'm gonna note that. Okay, go ahead. Second question.
Was, if I'm doing telehealth with a client, do I use WeMind as the telehealth platform?
Yes, you do. And question number 1, we will send that to Sander. Excellent.
Yeah, no, for now, there's no indication that it is. So I would encourage you to try it out. But here in Europe, we don't get any information on that. It's especially engaging people in therapy, especially gamers. So it will probably enhance it, delivering something that people know and people like. So yeah, for now on, I don't see it. We have no indication for that.
And you know what, Andy, maybe we should put that journal article, the one I sent you, because Andy's a big gamer. Maybe we should put that on there.
Okay.
Because yeah, there's research around how gaming, especially Tetris, can be used to desensitize. And I think kind of the key is if we're talking about an addiction, we're talking about dissociation, and we're talking about medicating a disturbance. You know, like addiction is the separating or severing from emotional or physical pain, and that's actually the same definition for dissociation. And our goal is to decrease the disturbance here. So what I'd like to think is that you're going to go in and we're going to be working on taking away what needs to be medicated. Like addiction is a symptom, and we want to get in and we want to work with the root cause. We want to work with the touchstone, the foundational memories. That's what is going to really help with any type of addiction. So I'd like to think that if we look at it from an addiction perspective, that we can head off it becoming an addiction. Love the question, and all questions just get us thinking for what we're going to be talking about in our next meeting in a month, exactly a month.
And the article is on your website now.
Oh, good. This was an article I sent Andy just because I thought it was fun. But okay, so 8 phases. Hopefully everybody's on top of their 8 phases. We've got our history taking and treatment planning. I'm going to skip over that for right now due to time. But just know that as we use our phase 1 and phase 2 and we become polyvagal informed, which is going to be a really important part of the work, and we start to understand, the client understands their sympathetic nervous system, that's going to give us therapists a really good idea around what we're going to want to target to begin with. Because man, this thing, you go in and you can do a lot of targets in one session. How am I on time? Okay, moving along. So phase 2 preparation of EMDR. I don't think I need to review these. Anyway, phase 3 assessment, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, 7, 8. Done. Okay, here, let's go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the screenshot of my work that I've been doing with my clients. So this is not for you to be like, oh, I can get on WeMind right now. And Sandra, this is where I get confused on if it's WeMind with a space or not, because you guys have a space up there. I'm like, which is it? But it's without the space. You have anything you want to say about that?
You're actually right. The logo is with a space in between, but we worded WeMind, so you got us. Yeah,
I love it. I love to be right. I'm older than you, so I should be right. So, okay, but anyway, let's get back to this. So, one of the things for phase 2 that WeMind does, so exciting. These actual visuals are what they provide. So you don't even need to put your own visual in there. Like I said, time can be an issue, but at the end of the day, you can pull up. So like I have an example, Andy has this beautiful beach house and he has a gorgeous picture of the sunset. And I have that picture on my computer. And if we get to it, I will show you how we can upload our own peaceful places for our clients, which is super cool. Containers as well, especially let's say you're working with a kid and your kid makes a container. We can take a picture of that container and we can pull it up and we can do anything we want with it. And so it's all under either background, or if you're going to be pulling it up, it's the exposure function, and I'll show you how that works. Secure your space again, and any type of imagery. So we can pull up this imagery. A lot of times I'll pull up a beach. I live in Evanston. We call it Heavenston because it's on the Lake Michigan, one of the most awesome lakes in the world. And so we say, you know, when you're looking at this visual, what's coming up for you while the ball over here is moving back and forth very slowly, because in our basic training, we teach slow, short sets of bilateral, like Laurel Purnell speaks to. And so here you can adjust the ball speed. And then you can, like I said, you can pick your own picture that you can upload, or you can use a picture that is here that's provided for you. A lot of my clients already like certain pictures here. I went to Ireland recently. This works for me for the cliffs, but you know, you got to ask your client, you know, what they like and what they don't like. What was it? Yeah, okay. There was something that came up yesterday that was kind of funny, actually. Okay, so that's our phase 2, part of our phase 2, at least. Now we're going to look at phases 3, 4, 5, and 6. So standard protocol, I know there's a lot here on the screen, and you can start slowly, but I just want to show you that we can create horizontal eye movements, or diagonal eye movements. They're both very, but most of us know horizontal. And when you're under accessing, and the question is, well, what do I do if my client's under accessing? Once again, if you have permission from the protector parts, you can go into a diagonal in order to hopefully get them out of maybe some type of looping. And then you have the manual. We have the AI or the AI component here for working memory, but you don't have to use it right away. So you can go in and what we're saying here is you can go in and do your standard protocol while you're getting used to this. Over here on the right, well, first of all, under our notes, this is my phase 3. I've got the worst part, the negative cognition, positive cognition. I've got my VOC over here, which was a 5, my emotions, my SUDS, which was over here, which is a 9, and then the body sensation. And so as we get the back and forth of the ball, we can set it at whatever speed we want that works for the client. And we have the SUDS that we can go in, and we can, every time we go in and we ask the client what it is their SUDS is now, we can put it in there. And then all of this can be saved to a clipboard so that you can put it directly into your notes. I do like to point out the visual response because a lot of our clients are competitive, right? And they're like, oh, I got to make sure I'm doing this right. Well, that's all part of the working memory. That's all part of the desensitization. In fact, I specifically remember Ad de Jongh saying, and he works with anxiety, is that the more anxious the client, the faster the SUDS is going to go down. So I'm like, but we don't want our clients anxious. And so I like to give them encouragement, and I can tell if they are in fact able to keep up, or if in fact they're not. Because if there's no click detected or the ball speed is decreasing, it means the client's struggling a little bit. So I might manually just reduce this ball speed just so that they are feeling a little bit more comfortable. I'm going to be assessing the mood. But I'll tell you, once the clients get the hang of it, they like it. They like to be challenged. They like to know that the AI is on. I'll give them that option. And when the AI is on, they'll even ask like, well, what percentage did I get up to? And so the cool thing is, though, especially with my adolescents, is we are just doing so much great trauma work. So phases 3, 4, 5, and 6, we've got our phase 3 here. We got our phase 4 here. We got our phase 5 because we've shifted into the VOC. Like you can't have a SUDS of a -2. So you got to go into your VOC to calculate what is going on, or to give the client a measurable around their positive cognition. And as that amygdala is getting calmed down, we've got that prefrontal cortex and that hippocampus starting to really load up on what that positive belief is, or positive cognition is. Just so you know, the client is here. I haven't got to that part because there's a lot to cover. But let's continue. This is a part, this is me. And so I'm like very happy because this is my peaceful place. I do these hikes up in northern Michigan. So I rode here, walk in the forest, and then I have how my VOC went up. If you have like a positive cognition that is associated, like I know that when I'm up in my doing northern Michigan during the summer, I feel great. And I feel like, I'm doing the best I can as a trauma therapist and as a trainer, or that, recognizing what I can and can't control because I'm trying to let go, let God, whatever. You can use this as a way to strengthen and enhance those positive neural networks. And if any of you have done your research around how reconciliation works, or reconsolidation, I'm sorry. If any of you understand that we need a negative and a positive belief cognition, and that positive cognition has to be fired up, there has to be energy in it for this to work, this is one of the ways that you can strengthen that before you even get your work started. So that's super cool. And then you can see your client here, and then you can see yourself here. And so we will see another picture of that as we move on. So that's going to be also our phase 7 for closure, because we can use anything we want for a peaceful place, as well as, like I said, strengthening and enhancing any of our positive neural networks before we get the work started. So one of the big concerns is dissociation. I work with, I work with Farnsworth Lobenstein. I present at his advanced training, Introduction to Structural Dissociation, Ego State Therapy, and EMDR therapy. You know, there have been a lot of changes to that training lately. We've added Polyvagal, we're adding IFS, and so we can compare that with ego state work. You do your own meeting place, you meet your own parts, and we start to talk about the 5 aspects when working with dissociation, which is fractionation, titration, pendulation, education, and integration. And the pendulation that you can be doing here is amazing, because you can just have your client focusing on what was really distressing. And at any point in time, if you're uncomfortable or you're thinking, you know, I want to make sure they're not dissociative, you can just toggle them into a resource like that. And it's just really cool. So anytime, toggle over to your client's peaceful place, upload your client's vacation pictures, strengthen and enhance the positive neural network. And then also we can be strengthening our positive cognitions. And yeah, can't say enough good things. This is an actual example of me strengthening a beach. So here I have the ball going back and forth. Now, we haven't even gotten into actually the working memory piece with the AI, but I just, like I said, I want all of you to know that if you start with this, because you get 45 free days, that you can start working on your standard protocol before you start going into understanding how we can use this working memory theory and increase our results by 45% over our results with standard protocol. So relapse prevention and exposure, as I said, I'm an addiction therapist, work with eating disorders, anything that's got triggers that has a relapse potential. I am a huge fan of this as well. So I have a client that was in the hospital. Their dad passed away. Their body shut down due to alcohol consumption. And so we can bring in, literally, there are so many different options here of the type of situation where there's exposure. This is an actual video with the sounds of being in the hospital and the breathing machine. And so what we do is we put that media into the client's screen, and we can make it start really small, and we can make it get larger and larger while we have the bilateral going on, however you're going to do it. Right now, we're just talking about horizontal and diagonal, but when you get into using the random, which is the working memory theory, it's amazing, the results. So with relapse prevention, your client literally could take a picture of the you know, the alcohol section at the grocery store where they get triggered, or their favorite bar, and they can bring it to you, and you can load it up and you can put it in there and you can desensitize it. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So once again, you can see how excited I'm getting. And if you think I can fly around this this platform quickly, no, I don't, but I'm going to at some point. Another thing I want to throw in there real quick, though, is that they are constantly, like, Sandra's awesome with taking feedback, and, you know, I'll send them something that, you know, a couple clients are talking about, and then the next thing I know, it's changed. Any updates that are done, you automatically get those updates as part of your, you know, 45 days that you're starting with, and then hopefully you're going to continue to keep it because you love it so much. This is just another example of that hospital situation. Here I've got, you know, the ball going back and forth. My red circles are just telling me what I want to talk about. So, and you, like I said, this could start out really small, and then you make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we're going to briefly, because we're going to move into the AI piece right now. What can WeMind do? People are always like, well, what can it do? What can it do? And I'm like, what can't we do with WeMind? We can do everything and more with WeMind. There are so many great options, and they're just continuing to work on it. So, so 8-phase protocol with PTSD is what we just started with. And as you know, PTSD and complex PTSD are different. Anxiety, you know, Netherlands are all about anxiety. Flash forwards, if you haven't read that article, make sure you do. Using a mental movie, very powerful. Phobias, OCD, panic attacks, working with addiction, desensitizing, level of urge, desensitizing, level of craving, desensitizing triggers, strengthening and enhancing all resources and beliefs, like using Detour. I'm going to be making a video of using WeMind with the Detour model because I'm in the process of working on an advanced training for addiction. So, yeah, it's going to be super cool. Eating disorders, standard trauma work. My clients have eating disorder teams, and they have a nutritionist, and they have an eating disorder therapist, and they have me as their trauma therapist. So I'm always telling them we do the trauma work, but I thought it was super fun to do their exposure to fear foods, because they're actually told to go out and eat things that they're terrified of, which of course have a trauma component, that past present connection. We're always looking for that. So I can go in and work on desensitizing or doing standard protocol with the trauma piece. And then I can help them with the exposure to the fear food that they're being assigned to eat that week. And I'm going to show you a picture of that in a minute. Complex PTSD, fractionating, titrating, pendulating, educating, integrating. We can decrease memory recall with this platform. So as you know, the longer you do eye movements, horizontal eye movements, the more memory that content that comes up. But if you want to keep that client in dual attention, if you want to keep them present, have them focusing on changing or hitting the visual and hitting the audio when things are changing on their screen. I really think this is going to be the answer to doing work with our highly dissociative clients. I just did my first session with my DID client this week. I'm going to hopefully have some updates in a month because we're going to see. And so I think that this is going to be something that we really need because I know that because I do advanced training for complex PTSD, that this is an issue of how to integrate our tools that we're learning in our basic training with how complex our clients are. ADHD for children and adults. Oh my gosh, children. Hello, 200,000 studies out there on strengthening the working memory for children and how it increases data retention. Working memory is like a muscle, and we can strengthen it with these tools that we have. And I really think that the education system right now needs our help. They need Polyvagal, and they need us as therapists, and that we can be doing amazing work in above our standard protocol, 45% faster results. And like I said, Sandra's going to get us that journal article on my website that we can see with WeMind. And then we're going to be meeting next month because there's no way that we can get everything in 1 hour, and we shouldn't. That wouldn't be honoring it. But we're going to talk about parts work and Polyvagal. And how we can use WeMind. I've been using it with parts work. As you recall, you've got those, the funnel, I have trouble saying it, phonological. Anyway, the audio part, and you've got the visual part, and that audio part, those are the voices of our parts. So how can we work with them? How can we link binder, connect them to our adaptive that's located in that prefrontal cortex. So very exciting work. And then also working with the sympathetic nervous system, moving it into ventral vagal. Very cool. Okay, recent event protocol using mental movie. Just wanted to throw this out there. This is fractionating. We have, first I resourced the client in the walk in the forest, and I used a VOC measurement. Now, we need to talk about this because securing your space is usually a 0 to 5 measurement. We don't use the VOC. So that's something like, for example, maybe, they'll update and then we'll have that. We'll have to talk about that. But right now we have this VOC meter. So that's great for us to be able to give our clients the ability to measure. Here, once again, is going to be our visual. And then as I work with the client, I have them fractionate 5 points of disturbance with a sexual assault situation. So the first was the sound of the door locking. The second was then the first face of the perpetrator. The key is that you go in and you do one target at a time. And because we're using the system, the SUDS drops very quickly. If any of you are already using 2.0, you know that the SUDS drop quickly. It's kind of one of those things like once you've done it, it's hard to go back to just doing when you're using like EMD, for example, modified standard protocol. So then we also have, here's our fear food. I'm a big Twinkie fan, so I use Twinkies, but you can make this start out small and you can make it bigger. And so this is something we can put up a bottle of vodka, we can put up a bar, you can put up whatever you want and desensitize it. And the client can tell you what you want to bring up. It could be your ex-husband's face if you want. There's so many fun things that you can do with this. And I'm
Can I
laughing.
interrupt, Paula?
Absolutely, Sandra. Please interrupt. I'll have some water.
Yeah, because you're talking about the study, and I think it's interesting to elaborate on that. You're mentioning 45%. It's actually 49, so
Oh,
you have a mistake
there you
as
go.
well.
Okay.
But what we basically did, we did a study on complex PTSD clients here in the Netherlands with a clinic. It's one of the specialized PTSD clinic, where we compared light bar EMDR sessions and EMDR sessions on our platform. And what we found is that the SUD drop 49% faster in the WeMind condition. So it took 49% less time in our condition. And what we also found is because of that, clinicians could do more targets in 1 hour than they could do in light bar sessions. So their output increased. And we also saw that the SUD dropped a bit further. So it dropped below 2. And in the light bar, it was a bit higher. So we're gonna give you all that information, and Paula can share that with you.
Thank you. And I had a feeling it was 49, but I'd rather under report it because I didn't have the article. So yes, and I mean, you're going to be amazed at how, as far as just bringing that SUDS down. So okay, but we have 12 minutes left, so I'm going to get this in. So visual component. So this is going to be what you have control of, and we're moving into the AI aspect of it. So here you see my circle. Here I've toggled this from the manual to AI. Now I'm working with AI. I have it on, and I'm going to put this on random. So what's going to happen is I have the option of picking the color of my ball. When the ball turns into a cylinder, we click on the right-hand side of the screen if it's a phone. We click on the down arrow if it's a computer or a laptop. And on the left-hand side, well, I'll show you the audio in a minute. So this is our visual. We also have the ability to turn our visual on and off right here below the screen. And so I like to start off with like a green ball, for example, and then you can go into rainbow, and then you can have the client clicking when the ball turns from a ball to a cylinder and telling you what color it is. So now we've got 2 distractions going. So, and then we're going to assess that. At least that's how I do it. So we've got color, solid, rainbow. We are moving it into the AI. Now we can do random and we can still do manual. So you have a lot of options. You always have the ability to change your ball speed here and here. So once again, not for you to be like, oh my God, I'll never be able to do this after this presentation. We're just introducing it here. Like I said, you got 45 days to work on this, and you know, do it with some of your other therapists, your colleagues. This is going to be the visual component in action. So first, always you can see your client. I just don't have it activated in my pictures. This is, once again, the circle turns into a cylinder, and I have the client either clicking on the down arrow or clicking on their phone, like I said, like a video game. And then here's the meter. I'm able to calculate. The SUDS is going from a 9. Now it's a 5.5. Now it's a 2. I can put in my notes what's happening. I just have to remember to save them. This is the audio task. So we have the visual, and then we have the audio. The audio task, we still need to talk about this a little bit, Sandra, but we've got 3 options. I'll tell you, option here, default, is the best option so far, but maybe there's some reason why these can be really disturbing. They sound like sirens, or my clients, I usually give them a choice because we always want to give our clients choices. And so, but just know, this is something that's a work in progress as well. So here's your audio response down here. You have your control here. You toggle your audio on or off. So if you don't want to do anything with audio, just turn it off permanently until you're ready to use it. And then here's the algorithm. We move it over to AI, And we have, like I said, here's your phase 3, and then here's your SUDS going for your phase 4. And this is the visual responses. And once again, the AI, when you get a feel for, I love it. It's like, this turns blue. I know my client speed's going to be picking up, and I can even give them a heads up. I'll say, well, I have to be careful what I say. I don't want to imply that you're doing a good job or not doing a good job, but I do want them to know that they're doing it correctly, because that is something that clients are concerned about. But if they're getting a lot of yellows, then I know that I'm going to slow that speed down so I can get them in the groove. Even though the research tells us that if the client's anxious, it works better. But we got to figure that out. We got to figure out like what works for us as therapists and the relationship that we have with our clients. And then once again, I just want to reiterate, you can see your clients and you can see yourself. So this is the phone. This is what it looks like on the client's phone. And actually, this is the therapist. And so it was me. So it gets confusing. And this is the phone. And this is me in my peaceful place. And then this is going to be the visual. And this is going to be the audio. And once again, you're like clicking on it like this, or you're using your down arrow and your space bar. So client testimony. I'm working with a number of addiction clients. I've got a number of them. Clearly, I work with addiction. And so I'm just going to read it out loud. I ask them to send me text messages. I don't text my clients generally, but I do with these guys because I want to check in, see how they're doing, checking in on day 2, day 3, day 4. I'm going to start over here. During the week, I feel like I have been given an energy shutoff valve or an anti-self-destruct button. This is what they're experiencing during the week, and I can't put language to what exactly is going on, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm hoping by next month, I've got this figured out. There's something going on. When you work with clients in addiction, they need a pause. You need 3 seconds to make a decision and that's not impulsive. And WeMind gives you that 3 seconds. Like I said, maybe Sandra can answer this, but I'm not going to ask him because we only have 6 minutes left. But there's something going on. I really think this is going to work beautifully for addiction as well as everybody else. This is my client. I've been complaining about a hard knot in between my shoulders and a stiff neck for a few days because of my intense argument with my spouse. We actually have a domestic issue here. My therapist recommended we do a session of, and it's WeMind, to target the pain. In just 20 minutes, my pain is almost entirely gone. I feel lighter and peaceful. And we never went back and worked on that. And that's because all of her stress is in that knot, and there's a lot going on in that house. And so we were able to go in and start working on that right away. This is another one. Since our early morning session, I've not gone to my garage for cigarette. We're working on cutting back on smoking. This is a work in progress. I'll have more information in a month. The real test was this morning. I habitually go out there for a smoke after I make coffee, and I had no desire. I had a compulsion driving after school drop off, but when I got home, it went totally away. I'm amazed this method works. Thank you so much. So, I'm not here to like sell you something. I'm here to share with you that this is super cool. And that is for my client. And then the last but not least, I have more time to think. My impulse control is noticeably better. I have solutions in the here and now. Once again, not going to put language to what's happening there, but this is, these are from my clients. The most exciting piece is I have had my therapist doing this with me. She's a standard EMDR therapist trained in the standard model I believe she was trained by AP, maybe the Institute. I went to her in the very beginning of my trauma journey, why I am such a huge fan of EMDR. I'm a different person. And she's been my therapist for 8 years. And I asked her if she would use WeMind on me. And so this is what my therapist said. Because she doesn't mess around with like modifications. Well, that's not true, but she's very much in that standard model and a believer in 8 phases. So she says, my experience working with WeMind has been surprisingly positive, because she was skeptical, since the system is designed in a way that really facilitates the reprocessing of target or touchstone memories in a much faster and productive ways. Memories, current triggers, and future rehearsals get done, resolved in the same session. And then my thoughts. There's 4 minutes. I just, there's no words. Okay. We'll talk about that next month. And then we had a demo, and we're going to do our demo in 1 month on the 4th Monday. It will be the 4th Monday of the month from 11 to 12 Central Time. So we hope you guys can join us. And thank you for showing up. I know I talk fast, and you'll have the PowerPoint and the resources. Maybe just sign up. Andy will put out how you can get signed up and get your 45 free days. He'll send it in an email after this with PowerPoint again and the resources once we get Sanders' article up there. And go in and practice and see what you think. And then meet us in a month and let us know. I might send out, like, send me some questions so I can present to you and what it is that you want to know about this. So thank you for showing up. Thank you, Sandra, for joining us from the Netherlands. Thank you, Andy, for doing an amazing job. Thank you for all of those that I see out there that I recognize from my trainings. And for those of you that have never met me, yeah, I talk fast, but I love this work. So I got a lot of passion. So we'll see everybody later.